Hello, Seku Radio, talking to millions of people around the world. Today our guest is JIMO Serodio, entrepreneur who is solving food problem around the world. He has a discovery about aquaponic, Malawi. And JIMO, before we go into this second part, at the end of the first part, we were talking about how aquaponic can save land. I have a friend who live in Singapore. They mentioned it to me that when the agricultural season starts in Southeast Asia, that people use the system of burning the palms and then the cloud and the smoke for weeks or months will linger in the area. Any idea to solve that problems in terms of an entrepreneur? What should they innovate? What should they do?
Yeah, no, for sure. So I'm not specifically aware of the situation you're mentioning. I am aware of, habitat loss in Southeast Asia, where, for example, species like orangutans are in danger, coconut plantations that are competing with other habitats. But the theme here is that we are basically devoting the most habitat-rich, the most biodiverse areas of our planet for agriculture. When in fact, if we can completely control the agriculture system from a technological perspective, we're now able to locate these food-producing hubs in less biodiverse areas. So instead of competing with natural habitats for the nutrients in soil and amongst other cycles that happen naturally, if one is able to control the inputs and the outputs, then we, for example, could allocate an area with less biodiversity, such as a more desert land, or certain parts of Africa, certain parts of the United States, for example, for these plantations. Now, we do need to fully be in control of that, and that's where aquaponics, for example, comes in. There are many trends and many technological innovations taking place. My particular interest falls in how these natural microbial metabolisms happen, unlocking these nutrients through natural means, such as aquaponics. And in the end of the day, you have the means of producing protein from fish. You harness that fish waste upstream into plant fertilizer, and you are able to grow plants with minimum amount of water and basically no fertilizer inputs that require exploitation of natural resources. So that is why I believe aquaponics is so important, not as the only solution for agriculture, but as this model of natural ingredients and cycles of life and of our planet. And also that's why we're focusing on the education component, to be able to inspire more careers, more solutions, and more interest in these environmental science and engineering fields as it pertains to sustainability and food production.
Great answer. Seku Radio, Southwest Florida. We're talking to millions about agricultural, water, aquaponic, JustLearn. And the guest is JIMO Serodio, entrepreneur with agricultural mind. JIMO, how important is water? The reason I'm saying that, state of California, Nevada, Colorado fight over Colorado water. There's a lot of lawsuits going on back and forth. Everyone wants to use the water. How important is water for agriculture?
Yeah, water is really, really important. It's funny you bring California I remember some statistics that say that as much as 80% of California's freshwater use is going towards agriculture. So there's almost a disconnect between, some of the taboos we see with water consumption, such as, flushing toilets and saving water in residential settings, and maybe even car washes and things like that. But those really can't be improved that much in terms of, having any impact in the true use of water, especially if the efficiencies in agriculture don't fundamentally improve. That being said, the majority of fresh water today is used for food production, for agriculture, and we don't currently have very efficient means of doing that, especially in outdoor open field crops. There are some innovations taking place, but ultimately, I do think that we have enough water in this planet. As you know, the oceans are filled with water. Unfortunately, it's not fresh water, and we should, as quickly as possible, make a plan as a species, as a society, to move away from depending on these freshwater reserves and, coming up with ideas and breakthroughs in order to tap into the abundance of salt water. That being said, there are many cases around the world already where desalination takes place, such as Qatar. In this case, they don't have a choice. They don't have sources of fresh water, and they do happen to have an abundance of affordable energy and electricity due to natural gas. So I think that's a very interesting model and example, which leads me to the second point in that water, in this case, is a function of energy. It's only a matter of time before energy costs globally continue to go down, such as through renewable energy. Unlike fossil fuels that are scarce, these new methods of energy production are improving over time. And it's just a matter of time before desalinating salt water is very viable globally, including for agriculture purposes. So the way I see it is eventually we will transition into desalination, and the freshwater problem won't be, as pronounced. That being said, until we get there, we are completely depleting natural water reserves, such as in California Basin and India and many other parts of the world, which is not a problem in places with an abundance of fresh water, but it certainly is when many habitats depend on it, and with, climatic phenomena such as El Nino, which is a result of climate change. So it is definitely a temporary period, the way I see it, but it nonetheless is very dangerous unless we push harder and faster to these innovative, more sustainable means.
Great answer. So with all these big, the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic, did you think desalinations of the water can help bring more water into agricultural lands?
Absolutely. If it's just a matter of time with today's energy costs to be able to feasibly desalinate water for agriculture production. There are a few very interesting examples. I have to mention Sundrop Farms in Australia. What they're doing is they're desalinating water, not by boiling the water using electricity, but using the very heat of the sun. They are then capturing energy by having that steam run turbines, using existing technologies. So that's a particular example where there isn't much natural freshwater supply, and they're using the abundance of sunlight that they receive to be able to desalinate water and feed it into controlled environment agriculture systems such as aquaponics. I think that's a very interesting example. I'm an advocate that the rest of the world continues to adopt these off-grid solutions. But ultimately, the important point here is that if desalinating water is a function of energy, our current progress of cost of energy is positive in that, solar panels, wind turbines, and even certain breakthroughs in the horizon, such as fission and molten salt reactors and fusion, could really unlock a lot of possibilities with the use of cheaper electricity. When that's the case, I have no doubt that it will be very viable for us to desalinate salt water and use that as an input for agriculture, which will greatly alleviate what's happening today with the exploitation of very limited freshwater supplies.
So you're bringing solar energy into agriculture now, right?
Right. Unlike Qatar, which uses natural gas and thereby releases carbon into the atmosphere, the case in Australia is that they use existing sunlight to heat water to then produce steam that is then used as a pressure to drive a turbine which collects electricity, but then that steam condensates into a freshwater source for the agriculture facility. And I find that very interesting, and I hope that it continues to spread around the world.
Great answer. So would it be fair to say that Doha, Qatar is the most advanced in terms of converting salt water into fresh water?
As far as I know, they have the largest desalination plant in the world. I'm not sure if that still is true today, but they don't have a freshwater source, so they do need desalination as their source of fresh water. And again, they have an abundance of energy, so for them, it's a model that was proven feasible instead of having to import water, just like crude oil, for example, or other fluids are imported or other resources. So that's a case, an example that works, and it will. This wave of feasibility depends on many factors, such as the geographic location, the affordability of energy. But it's not going to happen overnight for all the countries in the world. Some countries won't necessarily have scarcity of fresh water, but slowly but surely, it is a technology and a technique that will continue to develop. And again, it really depends on energy for it to be feasible.
Question for you. Pretty soon we're gonna go into question regarding Mozambique, but in the news, it was a huge explosion in Lebanon. Calcium nitrate.
Right.
People said this calcium nitrate was destination was Mozambique for agricultural use. Can you tell our listener what is the importance of the use of calcium nitrate for agriculture?
Yeah, so calcium nitrate can definitely be used as a fertilizer. However, in this very case, it is also an explosive. It's an unstable explosive. And what it was destined to do in Mozambique, as far as I understand, was for mining. So I think it was to be used as explosives, but for in a similar way that dynamite, for example, is used. And it can be used to mine fertilizers, as well as other ores and resources. But I believe in Mozambique, it's mostly these certain valuable stones, such as rubies, maybe tanzanite, and a few other very, very valuable resources. So while it can be used as fertilizers, and in many cases can be also used as explosives for fertilizers, in our case, it's for mining of precious stones.
Great, good. That's a clear answer. Earlier we talked about sand drop farm in Australia, farm in the desert who bring salt water, steam, fresh water. Would that technology be able to be duplicated around the world?
Absolutely. These innovations don't happen just from one breakthrough. They happen from multiple breakthroughs happening around the world, and it's just a matter of bringing the technologies together. I have no doubt that as one of the first pioneers in the space, that sun-drop farms had a lot more to work with in terms of experimenting, the research and development, and it might not start off as a viable solution in terms of being cost-effective compared to other supply chains for Australia. But it is such an important step in the